FA Cup final. And Hatchin! What a magnificent goal!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a live All Things Sky Blue show with myself, Mark Smith, and shortly joining me will be Cameron Cairns. We're there. We lift the trophy today. We'll be reviewing a brilliant 3-1 win against Wrexham, and we'll talk about the game and I guess the season in general. We'll talk briefly about our last fixture at Watford. Before we bring Cameron on, I'm just going to get a bit of housekeeping out of the way. Our show is sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications for your fabrication needs across Coventry and the Warwickshire area. We're partnered with the Sky Blue Tavern and Dealers Brewery, and we're also teamed up with the Sports Social Podcast Network. And last but not least, shall I say, we are sponsored by Sky and Friends Dog Walking and Pet Services. Please like and subscribe to All Things Sky Blue on YouTube, on Facebook, X, Twitter, X now, shall I say, TikTok, Instagram, and any other podcast channel that you listen to us on. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening. And please get these questions and comments in. This is your show as well as our show. Please talk about the game. Any questions you've got for me or Cameron and I, please send them in. And let's all enjoy the ride. So, Cameron, good to have you on again. How are we doing?
Absolutely buzzing. What a way to end the home campaign. A win over Wrexham, trophy lift. I couldn't have asked for a better day.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely brilliant day today. I think it was it's one of those days where it's easy to think, you know what, we won the league, we don't have to do too much today. Even if we lose, doesn't matter. But I thought the way we played today, showed that, you know what, we're going to go down and do a job today. And I thought we were brilliant overall.
Absolutely. To Wrexham's credit, they didn't make it easy. They defended well, were quite organised. They got their goal as a result, as we were a little bit lapsed, but more often than not, we were very, very good. That opening goal, we were a better team. I'd say we were a better team for most of the game, despite Wrexham's resistance. And I think when Victor scored that free kick, I think you could just tell Wrexham's body language that they just dropped. That instead of like spurring on to get the equaliser, their faces just dropped. It was a matter of time until we were going to get our third, and that's what we did. Nicely finished from Mason Clark, who in my view was man of the match. What a game he had. He's been superb all season, but what a performance today from Mason Clark. Absolutely fantastic.
He's been absolutely brilliant this season. And yeah, I mean, let's talk about the first goal. That cross for Thomas Asante was just delicious. That cross just literally right on his foot. And Thomas Asante, right place, right time to put it in. But I have to say that cross was outstanding. That's to me is Premier League quality. That what he did there.
Easily, and I think you can tell that the closer we've got to the line, and when we got over the line, it's only spurred Mason Clark on even more. And those sorts of crosses, they're going to be a weapon for us in the Premier League. We're going to have to utilise that. And Mason Clark, he definitely has a really good delivery on him, and it shows. Like Brandon Thomas-Asante won't get many easy chances in his career, and that is thanks to quality from Mason Clark, who I think is going to have no problem stepping up to the top flight of English football.
He's just getting better and better, isn't he? As the season's gone on, he's just got better and better. He scores goals, provides assists. He's been a fundamental. I mean, there's been a number of players who I could think of as my top three players. We can kind of talk a bit about that later on, but he has to be up there. He for me has been outstanding. He was outstanding today. I mean, that bit of skill as well, where he wrong-footed the Wrexham player as well, which didn't lead to anything, but that just shows the class, and it's just the quality of the crossing. It's not, it's the way it just dipped, and Thomas Asante didn't have to do anything apart from just, put it into the back of the net, hit the target, and it's in, and it was just absolutely fantastic.
Indeed, and he's just got better and better as his career's progressed, because he spent a fair bit of time playing in the National League with Barnet, and then he had a couple of seasons at Peterborough, and he's just grown at Championship level. And I think what is even more amazing for me is that he is a modern day non-league to Premier League success story.
Yeah.
And to grow that quickly, just go all the way from the National League. He bypassed League Two to go to League One, did very well at League One. He's done very well in the Championship. If anyone deserves a shot at the top flight, it's Ephraim Mason-Clark. And I genuinely think that he'll be more than good enough to step up to the occasion.
Yeah, definitely. He's just, yeah, to say, showing his class. I thought he was outstanding today. I guess I'll get the slight negative out of the way. I thought we were a little bit disappointed after we scored. I thought we could have done better for their goal. I don't know what your thoughts are on the goal or their goal.
No, I agree. I thought it was quite lapse, and I think instead of having one person close down on Oliver Rathbone, it gives him a free shot, goes for everybody, goes in. I won't take anything away from Rathbone; it is a good finish. But we definitely should have been more awake for that goal. It's because it's not, I wouldn't say it's a brilliant ball into the box by Kabore, but nobody's there to collect the ball, and it gives Rathbone a free shot at goal, and well, it leads to a goal. So if we're being hypercritical, then yeah, that was a bit disappointing. But I do think the response was very good.
It was, yeah. I thought the goal started off from Haji Wright losing the ball. I think from a Rushworth drop kick, I think from memory, and I felt he wasn't strong enough for me. And I guess that was the one thing I'd get a bit critical of Haji Wright. I thought he was he wasn't strong enough for his back to goal, and I think that's probably my main criticism of him. And I thought De Silva could have done better to stop that Ebori cross. I thought it was a bit too easily. But the main thing was no one picked up Rathbone. He was unmarked. Decent finish, but really we just didn't get back quickly enough, which was disappointing. So I think in fairness, at half time, I thought 1-1 was probably about the right score. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was a fairly even game, I think, first half. We had our moments. Wrexham had their moments. They were arguably unlucky not to get a second goal because Kitching does intercept the ball, but Bobby Thomas isn't there to help him. So Kitching leaves himself, is left a bit exposed, and then they get a shot away, which hits the post, but we get away with it. But I think after that, we'll take the 1-1 at half time, and I think second half we then begun to really wrestle the control away from Wrexham. Yeah. Second half they didn't look like a team looking to secure a playoff spot. They looked like a team on the ropes for a lot of that second half. And although they had the occasional hope moment, especially when Kiefer Moore went on when he headed a shot that just went wide.
Yeah,
I believe it was wide or over. I can't remember. But yeah, apart from that, I would say we were firmly in control of the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought the second half was really good. Victor Torp back in the goals. I'd say it's a really good free kick. I would say maybe their keeper should have saved it, but who cares? It went in. He is fantastic. He's fantastic at set pieces, and he hasn't had a lot of game time. But when he has come on and things like that happen, you know that there's a moment there where he can get that goal for you. And I think he's probably arguably one of our best set piece specialists in the team. Maybe Radoni or Grimes are up there as well, but certainly with shots, goal scoring opportunities like that, I thought he's definitely the best in the club for that.
I thought he did very well when he come on. Like when Frank Onyeka come in, I would say that he was the casualty of that because he was starting almost every week, and that changed when Onyeka came to the club. Obviously, Onyeka, we needed a bit of midfield solidity, a bit of know-how, and that's why Onyeka came in. And Torp was kind of a casualty of that, but he hasn't moaned. He hasn't begrudged it. He's just bided his time. And although he's mostly been on the bench, he's tried to take those opportunities. He's still got a couple of goals. Scored a penalty against Southampton. Scored that really good free kick today. And he just has and not only that, he has a killer pass on him.
Yeah.
His killer pass does not get praised enough, in my view. He is very good at reading where players want to go and where they want the ball. And that is definitely an asset when you have someone of his caliber on the bench to make an impact as a substitute. And as for the free kick, Danny Ward, yeah, I think he'll be a bit disappointed in that. Not the first time he's been disappointed because he does that quite often. However, I will also give Torp credit. Danny Ward might be disappointed, but it's the power of the free kick, I think, that gets Danny Ward. because it has power, but it also has the dip and the control, which I think made the free kick even more impressive. Even if it was in right to the corner, Danny Ward gets done for pace, but not only pace. It's a shot like that without enough amount of pace, it usually goes into Rose Ed, but it didn't. It had dip, and that's a testament to the dead ball technique that Victor Torp has.
Yeah, because I mean that's obviously that's something he will practice day in day out on the training pitch, and he scored the same sort of goal against Oxford as well. And I think that's a great asset to have. Just with Torp, what do you think his best position is for the team?
That is a very difficult question, I think, because I do think Torp works well as a number 8, and as a 10, but you don't want him to be the physical number 8, because I don't think, if there is one criticism I do have of Torp, is he does have a lack of athleticism and he does have a lack of physicality, and that kind of hinders in a sense, because in terms of technical ability, he probably has the most technical ability out of all of our midfielders. I genuinely mean that. Technically, he is so brilliant, but he's not the most athletic, and I wouldn't say he's the fastest or the most physical either. So maybe the number 10, where he can kind of play in holes, play in pockets, and pick out passes. I think that would be his best position if you're going to play him in the top flight.
Yeah, no, let's get some comments in. Yeah, that's interesting. Glenn thinks that Torp could be an option to play a number 10 in a box formation next season. I think he's an option, but I think you've got someone called Jack Rodoni. I think he could play there as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Jack Rodoni, he was spotted in a sling. Yes. So I do wonder if that is him having his shoulder operation. But the job is done. Have the shoulder operation, come back 100% ready for next season. Because for those who don't know, Rodoni had a shoulder injury, but it didn't fully recover. And that's why he was super careful with his shoulder. And I think that played a big part in his mid-season struggle for form. But then he really realised, okay, the shoulder's holding up. Even if it's not 100%, it's holding up. And I think that's when he started to return to form. But promotion's done, the title is done. Get the operation, rehab the shoulder, and then come back a better version of what you were before, and take on the Premier League like the great footballer that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and obviously, we wish him, and also wish Sakamoto the best as well, because I know he's been injured with a bad rib injury. But I think it made perfect sense for that operation to happen. The season's done. We're up. We're champions, and yeah, I think it was a good move by the club to do that. And then after Torp scores, Mason Clark rounds off a fine performance with another goal, or a goal, which I say for today, not another goal, but he provided assist for the first one. But I thought that really was the icing on the cake on his performance-wise, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The great cross for Thomas Asante's goal, the way he just had their right-hand side on complete toast all game. And out of the 3 goals, that was probably my favourite goal, just because of the placement of the ball. It's the very, very side of the net that he hits. Danny Ward has absolutely no chance. The placement is just top draw. Danny Ward was beaten before the ball even got to Efron Mason Clark. And I'd say the main thing he's improved on is his end product. It was quite hit and miss last season, despite his talent. But I think he's worked hard to get his end product to the levels that it was when he was at Peterborough, but at a higher level against higher quality opposition. He's done that really well. Mason Clark is someone who, in my view, if he gets 7 goals or 15 goals or whatever, I don't think it has an overall standing on how good he is, but the fact that he can add goals to his game and those goals can make a big difference is certainly an asset I completely welcome.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a really good, as you say, a really good finish right at the side of the net, and then the party really started. And let's just talk about the celebrations. Obviously, it's been a brilliant day for all of us as supporters. Probably one of the best days for like last 25 years, really, to be back in the big time. Just talking, Cameron, obviously you haven't really seen us as a Premier League side before. What's your overall emotions right now when you saw the trophy being lifted, etc.?
I cried a little bit, if I'm honest. I cried a little bit. didn't like cry uncontrollably, but I cried a little bit. I was wiping away a couple of tears, but it was like tears of joy. I'm like, this isn't real. Surely this isn't real. And seeing what my club has been through, going down the leagues, like having to play at the bottom of the football league, having to like really grind out results against very gritty League Two opposition, in a promotion which was actually very difficult to achieve. Like we had to do it through the playoffs. We didn't last long in League Two. We didn't stay around League One. Sorry, we didn't stick around in League One for long, and then we ended up using the years we spent in the Championship wisely, just progressively building a good side that would be ready to then get promoted and then hopefully be competitive next season. It's been a long journey, and I'd say Coventry's just been a massive part of my personal life because I've had a lot of issues, and Coventry has been my escape from any issues that I've had to face. And I think in life, the only thing that's ever loved me back is Coventry City. And it feels so good to see them reciprocate that love once again and do it in style. So honestly, just thank you for being a club that I love.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of thank yous, and not just this season. I mean, you rightly mentioned about the times. I think you have to thank Mark Robbins, for example, deserves a huge amount of. I think it might be bittersweet for him, probably seeing Frank Lampard lift the trophy, but he's played a massive part, as well as AD Vivash, Dennis Lawrence, in our rise back to the top. I think they deserve a huge pat on the back. Coming in, obviously, a time where Robbins was a very, he came to the club. We were down in League One. Okay, we lifted the Paint Pot Trophy, but we got down, and then he got us back up 2 divisions to the Championship. We were within a penalty shootout of being the Premier League side. We got to an FA Cup semi-final. He deserves a huge amount of pat on the ground. I think if he's, watching that today, he should be proud of what he did for the football club. And I think the fans will never forget Mark Robbins. I think Frank Lampard finished the job, but Mark Robbins did a long way to start the job and create that momentum, that good feeling of the football club. He put the pride back into the shirt of Coventry City. He had to deal with many grounds, and he dealt with it really, really well. And I think he should be looking at today as he's helped build our rise back to the top.
Yeah, I could not agree more, because that's where it started. In March 2017, we were in a bad place. Relegation was imminent, but we won that EFL Trophy final at Wembley, and it's the only highlight in a really glum season. And then obviously the 2 promotions afterwards, and then the consolidation in the Championship. But I'm not just going to thank Robbins and the staff. I'm going to thank the players who were in that League Two squad. I'm going to thank Lee Burge. I'm going to thank Jack Grimmer. I'm going to thank Jordan Willis, Dominic Hyam, Tom Davis, Rob McDonald, Chris Stokes, Ryan Haynes, Michael Doyle, Liam Kelly, Devon Kelly-Evans, Jordan Shipley, Tom Bayliss, Max Biarmid, Stuart Bevan, Mark McNulty, God bless his soul. He's enjoying life in the Scottish Third Division with Spartans. These players all played their role. In the doldrums of League Two, a lot of unfancy players who still, after leaving Coventry, continued to be journeymen, went their own separate ways. But their work needs to be appreciated too, because they were part of a squad that achieved that first promotion. And then in League One, you have the likes of Amadou Bakayoko, Zane Westbrook, Michael Rose, Sam McCallum, Brandon Mason, Dujon Sterling was here on loan for a year. All these players in the League One years, Jordi Harula, all these players all played a part in our rebuild, and they should absolutely be thanked and praised for it, because it all starts from there.
Callum O'Hare's another one.
Yeah.
20 goals.
The best to ever, Amadou Bakayoko, the greatest to ever grace the game that is football. So
Yeah.
Anyone watching, just please, Lord Bakayoko with praise. It's my personal request. I'd be really appreciative if you did that for me.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing. I mean, you talk about those players like Max Biamu. I see he loves the club. You see his messages on like social media, and you can tell that Coventry's really his heart. And it's all he's almost like he's a Coventry fan, and it's great to see that. Fenkati Dabo, of course, we can't forget Fenkati Dabo. How penny for his thoughts after obviously what happened, the heartbreak of the penalty shootout, but. He played again. He played his part. He was a really good right back for us, and I think injuries unfortunately hampered his career massively. But yeah, I think all those players you mentioned were part of the rise, and they all played their part. I just think I liked, and if you look at the off the field, obviously Doug King buying the ground was a big moment in our season. What was your thoughts on Doug King when he first bought the club? Was you a bit skeptical, thinking is he Sisu or is he part of Sisu, or what was you excited, or was you a bit sort of the jury's out? I'm not too sure.
I'll be honest. I think we were under Sisu for so long, and while this isn't always a good thing, case in point, look at politics. When you get a new leader after a really bad premiership from the previous leaders or owners in this case, you feel liberated. And then it obviously depends if this new owner is going to repay that optimism and new hope, or if they're going to abuse that hope, like Sisu did back in 2007. But Doug King, he didn't. He repaid that hope. He put plans in place. He invested in the infrastructure, not only at the CBS, but behind the scenes, to make Brighton a better facility for players. Because I remember when Brighton was in an awful condition, and it would genuinely put off players from signing for the club because the conditions, not only were they horrible, the pitches were dangerous.
Yeah,
they were dangerous. They caused pretty serious injuries, and we did a lot of work to fix that. The marketing behind the scenes, everything is so much better behind the scenes, and it's absolutely huge. And lastly, we own a ground. We've never owned a ground since I've been alive. I know we played at Highfield Road, but I believe that was sold to the council before I was born, so that doesn't really count.
No, I think it just feels like everything fit into place. It's almost like as the old saying goes, things in life happen for a reason. And I think this season's kind of, from the point of view of the football club, I think this is it. The ground was bought. We're going up into the Premier League with a really stable footing, a really stable foundations off the field. I think what Doug King's done is obviously with the ground, but also the appointments he's made as well. I think Dr. Claire Marie Roberts, an example, deserves credit because clearly she's had an impact on the side from a psychological point of view. You've got Nicola Ibbotson, I think John Taylor. He's made some changes there, and I think the other guy I forgot to thank really from our rise is Dave Boddy. I think Dave Boddy did a really, really good job as well as chief executive.
Yeah, he did. He was kind of the middleman between Sisu and the fans, because obviously Sisu and the fans, we're not exactly exchanging Christmas cards. But to Boddy's credit, I do think his heart was in the right place. And for the short time he was here, I do appreciate his work. I believe he's now at Solihull Moor, so I do genuinely hope it is all going well for him there. But yeah, Dave Boddy, a blast from the past, but his work is certainly appreciated, because I do think that Dave Boddy, he was always very supportive of Mark Robins. Anything Mark Robins needed, if it was realistic, Dave Boddy would try and provide it him. So yeah, thank you, Dave Boddy, for being middleman during a very difficult time. I know that wouldn't have been easy because you'd been facing a lot of hostilities since you're basically the messenger. So thank you for taking one for the team, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought he did an excellent job in really, really trying circumstances. 100%. I guess again, looking back to Doug King, one of the more contentious decisions, as we knew last season, was sacking Mark Robins and bringing in Frank Lampard. What was your thoughts at the time when that happened?
He went all in, didn't he? Because sacking a club legend, yeah, we were out of form, and I do think things have got stale, and I do think it was time for change. However, nostalgia and an emotional connection will often outweigh logic. That's just how football has always been. So when you sack a legend like Mark Robins, you are taking a massive risk, and it's important you get that appointment right because they have big shoes to fill. Frank Lampard, he come in, the narrative around him was fairly negative because of his previous jobs. I owe Lampard an apology, by the way, because I should not let myself slip. Because I remember hearing Lampard like, "No, I don't want this. I don't want this." And then when he was appointed, I'm like, "Okay, I'll have to give him a chance." So yeah, Lampard, I was wrong, and for what it's worth, it did not take long for you to turn me into a believer because what a job you have done, my friend.
Yeah.
And I can only apologise for my ignorance because after I did further research, hang on, you actually you were in trying circumstances at your last two clubs. So apologies for my ignorance and thank you for the work you've done here because you have more than certainly restored your managerial reputation and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, I think Lampard for me is just such a humble guy as well. He's there's no hint of arrogance in him. He's very articulate. He speaks. Listen to him today in that post match speaking to us, the fans. I thought he was really humble. I thought he said all the right words. And to me, I'm always a believer of giving people a chance. I thought Doug King took a lot of stick and I understand the stick because Mark Robins, as you say, club legend. Emotionally, you always feel like this is not right. But the truth of the matter is that results were not good enough, and Doug King had to act, and he did. So I think Doug King deserves a huge pat on the back, and of course Frank Lampard deserves a huge pat on the back. But what if you look at Lampard, the difference between Robins and Lampard? What is it? Could you pinpoint anything specifically that he's changed to the team? Because it's a lot of it's Mark Robins' players with a three or a few add-ins. What do you think he's done differently? I mean, is it a mentality shift in terms of the fact that we're winning games now? Is it fitness? What do you see from Lampard's tenure?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things where Robbins, it done a great job, but I think the way the Mark Robins setup was, I think it was a setup that always got the absolute best out of average footballers. But I think when you start to bring in high quality players like a Bobby Thomas and a Victor Torp and Jack Pridoni, it might not necessarily work as efficiently because I think the training regime is also quite different where obviously in the early years of the championship, we didn't have an amazing squad. We had great individual players in Victor Gyökeres, Hamer and O'Hare and, when Sheaf was at his absolute best. But in terms of a collective, it was an average squad. So I think there's definitely a lot of hard work to limit the limitations. But I think with the talent that's come in, I think the training regime, it's how talented players get even better where maybe it would have held them back under Robins because it's just about being rigid and solid and pragmatic where and while it's not a bad thing, I think it did work with Robins. We had to be pragmatic with a limited squad, and that's why we overachieved. But when you have a very good squad, sometimes pragmatic isn't necessarily the answer. You've got to be positive. You've got to keep going forward. And that's not me saying Robbins is negative. I don't think he was negative. I just think he got the tactics right with the squad he had, but he didn't adapt the tactics to a newer squad. And maybe that's what led to his downfall, which is, AD Vivash leaving didn't help matters. But with Lampard, he knows what works for his players. He just watches, okay, what works for his player, what works for you, how can I improve you? And I think that's the main thing, just constant willingness to evolve and adapt to tactics. And I think that's a big reason why Frank Lampard has been successful. And that's why even when we had a fair few key injuries, our form continued to prosper because Lampard adapted to the situation.
Yeah, he did. He did have a wobble. We did have a wobble back in sort of December, January time. But I think for me, if I was to look back on the season, I think the key win was Middlesbrough at home. That for me was the absolute key win. We went into that game 2 points. We tried about Middlesbrough at 2 points. And the way we performed that night, and I thought Onyeka was absolutely outstanding. And I think that signing for me has been absolutely pivotal to where we are at the moment, in my opinion. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we're going to do our top 3 players later on in this episode, but and while Frank Onyeka hasn't made mine, I'm just going to give him a special shout before I do my top 3, because he was the individual who brought stability back to the team. He brought solidity back to the defensive half of the pitch. And not only that, he's very positive going forward too. He's always trying to get the ball forward. He can pick out a killer pass in his own right, and he probably should have had more assists than he's had, because he can definitely create a few chances, and he gets stuck and he's very physical. He takes a lot of bumps, and I'm like, how has he not gone off injured? He gets battered pillar to post, but he also gives it back. And that robustness, and I think having a hard man like him in the midfield is what we were missing. As much as I love Bredoni, as much as I love Torp, Eccles, I think Eccles can hold his own, to an extent. Grimes, Onyeka was that, really, really nasty midfielder that we missed. And that's who we brought in. And oh my God, what a revelation he's been.
Yeah. No, he's been absolutely brilliant. Right, let's get some questions from our audience. Not questions, comments, should I say. Glenn said, today's a great day for people who've lost loved ones or had dark days, and Coventry have been the reason they kept on going. Today's the next chapter in the CCFC story. Yeah, I think that's good words there. Because football is emotional. It's, as you say, it plays a massive part in people's lives. You mentioned that earlier about how it's affected your life, Cameron. It's definitely, for me personally, it gives you a massive buzz. It gives you a feel-good factor. It does affect your personal life. And people who are passionate, about, particularly football fans in general, we're all passionate. And when your team wins, is successful, it is the best thing in the world. And I think, especially for us as Coventry fans, after everything we've been through, I think it's just, these are the days to savour. We don't often have days where we're winning a championship. So to do it is absolutely brilliant. Everyone deserves a pat on the back. I'm so proud today of the team, the football club. Never in my wildest dreams did I thought we had a good chance at the start of the season of going up. I felt deflated off that Sunderland game last season where they won. And I just thought it's never going to happen. But fair play to the players. They've bounced back. They could have sulked. We could have had, the heads could have dropped this season, but it hasn't. And we've gone on. I think that first win at Derby, I think it was 5-3, really gave us, we're not just winning games of football, we're entertaining as well. We're entertaining side to watch. The fact we scored 93 goals this season. We've demolished QPR. That's was it 7-1 win. And you just thought it just gives you that bit of momentum as the season goes on, and you think, we are a really good side and we're showing it. And I just think the crowd have been brilliant this season. It's just been a really good fight throughout the season, hasn't it? Really,
Yeah, loads and loads and loads of fight. We've had very, very comfortable days at the office, especially early on the season, and then when the pressure started to build and the wins weren't as comfortable, we still found ways to win despite not being at our best. And I think that's what wins you titles. I think good performances, yeah, they win you games, but gritty, dirty performances, they're what win you titles, where you have to really work hard, you have to really dig in deep when you're under the cosh, and you find ways to win when you're not necessarily at your best, and you probably should have even lost that game. When you can win those sorts of games, you deserve to be champion, because it's not luck, it's called staying in the game. If you stay in the game, you get one shot, you score that shot, boom, you win the game. It's as simple as that. And that's what we have done all season long.
Which is so clinical as well, that final third. I mean, I look at like the Millwall game. Bear in mind, Millwall are third in the table and still potentially get promoted automatically. But we beat them twice. I thought the first win at the New Den, we were clinical. We won 4-0. It was an absolutely brilliant win. But the second game goes back to your point about grinding out a win. That was 2-1, and that was a really, really tough win. And I look at other tough wins. I think Bristol City at home, we won by a goal to nil. And Carl Rushworth, who I'm going to laud more praise on, was absolutely outstanding. That save and added on time. Moments like that, it's a team effort. Swansea, we dug out a win. The Sheffield United away game, where we were 1-0 down, we went and won that game. The Sheffield United home game, we came from behind to win. I think there's elements. There's lots of times where questions have been asked of the team, but we responded, and I think that's a team of champions for me. You look at the season as a whole, 17 wins at home this season. Out of 23 games is outstanding. That's three quarters of the games played we've won. Absolutely brilliant. 10 wins on the road. It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely superb. And to your point of being clinical, we have 4 different players in the league who are in double figures. Hadji Wright, Brandon Thomas-Asante, Ellis Sims, and Efron Mason-Clark. Victor Torp is on 9 goals for the season. I believe Radoni and Tatsuhiro Sakama, I think they're both on 7. Can someone fact check for me, because I'm not too sure on Radoni. But Radoni, had he not been riddled with injuries first half of the season, maybe he'd be in double figures as well. Victor Torp, there's 1 game left. He can still get double figures. And I think that's just and not only that, we have goals around the team. Onyeka can chip in with a goal when needed. Eccles has a few goals in him. Romanese off the bench, he's got a couple of goals. We have plenty of avenues to get goals, and even Milan's got a couple of goals in him, which sounds pretty crazy to say when he's not scored yet this season, but he does. He just hasn't got one yet. And maybe next week against Watford will be the time he gets it, because he certainly deserves a goal to end this season. So does Jada Silva. Just please, for the love of God, score a goal, because you've deserved it for the last year. So, yeah, please get yourself a goal, because you more than deserve it. Hey, he almost scored. He did almost score. Yeah. But it took an unlucky deflection, and it ended up in the hands of Danny Ward. But it was nice to see him have a go, and hopefully he has a few goes at goal on Saturday, because I want to see him get that goal. And if we do get a penalty next Saturday, please give it to Jada Silva. He deserves his goal.
You've forgotten Bobby Thomas.
Oh, don't worry. I will discuss a lot of him later.
Yes. Right. Before we talk about the top 3 players, question. Well, your average Coventry fan asking is Rushworth going to stay, given by his comments and actions today? I didn't hear his comments, I have to be honest. I don't know what he said. So if you want to come back and let me know what he said, I haven't been tracking that bit. But obviously the plenty of chance about signing the contracts and all that. What's your thoughts on Rushworth?
I haven't seen what he said, but I do recall seeing while we were chanting sign the contract, he did a thumbs up. I think it's quite obvious from his body language that he wants to stay. I think it's quite obvious whether he wants to stay. It's not that simple. There's obviously a lot of hurdles we have to go through. But I guess the best way I can answer your question is I'm fairly certain we will certainly try our absolute best to get him permanently. So if we do that successfully, then yes, he'll sign permanently. I think he wants it. The club wants it. And I think Brighton are happy to sign off on it. So there's nothing guaranteed. There can be failed medicals. There can be little disputes on personal terms. But I'd say I'm more positive than negative in regards to Rushworth signing permanently. But at the same time, don't get your hopes up. It is a transfer window. Things happen. Don't be too dejected. If he doesn't sign permanently, please don't begrudge him, because he deserves to have a great career if it's not with us. And I'm sure we'll sign another good goalkeeper. There'll be plenty of us to go for. But I do think we'll bring Rushworth in. Just don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, and I think that's very well said there, because it's not. It's his job in the day. He's got to do what's right for his career, and hopefully he will think that his career path is with us in the Premier League, because he's been outstanding this season. In my opinion, player of the season. Because I think the amount of saves he's made, which have won us games, has been so important. But I'll ask you, Cameron, your top 3 Coventry players this season, as we're very much approaching the end of the season now.
Number 3 is Bobby Thomas, and I'm going to tell you why it's Bobby Thomas. I think on the left side of the defence, we've been a left side centre half. That position's not really been locked in. It's been kind of juggled. Wolfenden was, we were expecting him to take it. He's not really done that. Kitching, I think he started the season very well, but he went off a boil a bit in the winter. Never really found that same consistency. Latty, well, we haven't lost a game since Latty's come in, and I think he had done really, really well, but for whatever reason, he's never been trusted as the full-time left back, left-sided centre half in that position where Bobby Thomas has been the one constant. Yeah, he's missed the odd game or so, whether it's an injury or we just, need to sit him out because he had a fairly difficult winter. I won't deny he didn't. There was that incident where his form dipped a little bit and he had that silly red card where he slapped that player in the head. But the way he responded, he returned to form quite quickly. I think when Onyeka come to the club, we saw Bobby Thomas back at his best. And what Bobby Thomas deserves is another top quality centre back alongside him. And I think you see that as a very, very tough centre half pairing because Bobby Thomas individually is fantastic. Bobby Thomas, this might be recency bias, but in the last decade or so, Bobby Thomas, in my view, is the best centre half we have had. And I don't say that lightly. We've had some good centre halves. We've had Luke McNally. We've had, Fads. We've had Callum Doyle. But Bobby Thomas, for me, he has grit in spades. He was released by Everton as a kid. Crew didn't keep him. Burnley were just happy to move him on. They just saw him as an under-21 talent. Well, we're in the Premier League. Burnley are going back to the Championship. And Bobby Thomas, in my view, is going to play a very, very big part in our Premier League season because Bobby Thomas is a Premier League standard centre-half, and I will not hear any different. Number 2, Tatsuro Sakamoto. His best season in terms of consistency, I think I can just count on one hand in terms of poor performances. Consistency, he brought goals, assists, and he's just nimble, really difficult to deal with. I think with his low centre of gravity and his nimbleness, I can see that translating to the Premier League quite easily. And Carl Rushworth is my number 1. I don't even think it's a debate. He's won us at least 20 points this season. I don't need to say any more because I've said more than enough on Carl Rushworth.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think we both agree that Rushworth is the best player this season. I think with regards to who's the second or third, I think you could make a case for a lot of players because everyone has been outstanding in their own way. I think Bobby Thomas, I think you're right. I think he's definitely a Premier League standard defender. But the other thing about Bobby Thomas is he scores goals. He's very useful at set pieces. Obviously the Blackburn goal was a case in point. But before that, in previous seasons, he's got important goals. I think that game against Leeds at Ellen Road where he gets a goal from a set piece. Stoke City, I think we won, was it 3-2? He scored and he added on time. He's very, very good in the penalty box as well, and he gets you points. And I think he's been brilliant. He's a rock for me at the back. My personal, I think Grimes has been outstanding this season as well. I just think he makes the team tick. He's like the conductor of an orchestra, isn't he? He just he starts attacks. He's so good in possession. Very rarely gives the ball away. I'll say about say never, but very rarely gives the ball away. He's a real leader. I think he's had a massive impact to the football club, but he leads in a very quiet way, but he does a really good job. He's definitely well respected by everyone. And I think he's been a really, really important signing in our rise up to the Premier League. And I think Milan van Ivak has been outstanding again at right back. You've got Kane Kessler-Hayden, who was Preston's player of the season at the end of last year. And sadly for him, he hasn't had much game time. But that just shows the strength of the club now. We've got 2 quality right backs now. But I agree with what you say about Sakamoto. I think Ephraim Mason-Clark has been brilliant. Sakamoto has been outstanding. And I think there's just the players are so well loved. There's so many. You hear different chants about all our players, but that just shows the respect that they have and how popular these players are. I think it's like it's brilliant to see, isn't it? Because there's just so many. The vibe with the squad is just so good, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to add that I'm going to give Jamie Allen a special shout because he come on today. He hadn't played for months, whether it's personal reasons or just not getting in the team. Today was very likely his last home game at this football club. He's been here since 2019 when we were in League One. He helped play a big part in us getting out of League One. And I think in terms of Jamie Allen as a player, I've had a love-hate relationship. There's been times where I've really appreciated what he's done. I'm like, but sometimes I thought, why is he still at the club? But look at today. That's why he's still at the club. He doesn't start every week. He's not a starter. He's an impact player off the bench. He's a squad player. But he brings experience. He brings leadership. He brings grit. He brings graft. And what a servant he's been. He's been a fantastic servant for this club. He never complains. He picks his chances when he can. And it just reminds you that, yeah, you can lord all over your starting players and your superstars, but you need to show the squad players that same respect. Because Jamie Allen, what a servant he's been. And while, yeah, it might be time to move on, and I know that any championship club or a club from any level will be lucky to have him. Thank you for everything, Jamie Allen. And if you are released when the retain list comes out, I'm going to be sad to see you go because your work at this football club is massively appreciated by me. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, and I echo that sentiment as well. I'll certainly try and buy him a pint if I see him. I'm very lucky that I'm going to the end of season due, so I'll definitely pass on that message to him. But yeah, no, he's been a fantastic servant at football club, as has Ben Wilson. Actually, I think he's been a really good servant as well.
Absolutely, because I was kind of doing my own personal grading of players, and I kind of cheated a little bit, and I gave Ben Wilson a grade when he hadn't played a league game this season. But the reason why I did it is because a goalkeeper is a very premium position. You can only play with one goalkeeper, and Rushworth have been playing all season. But behind the scenes, Ben Wilson is pushing Rushworth. He's keeping him on his toes. And not only that, he's a great presence in the dressing room. And I will say this, and you might be thinking, why are you letting sentiment take over? But if Ben Wilson is moved on this summer, I'm going to be very, 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 very upset because this guy deserves to be with the squad in the Premier League. Sure, go and get a number 2 goalkeeper if you feel the need to. That's fine. But keep Ben Wilson on your books. Let him do his badges here either as well if you want to do so. But keep Ben Wilson at this club at all costs, because when we talk about culture and personality and what to expect from the club, when it comes to the type of culture we have, Ben Wilson is the face of that culture.
Yeah.
He is an underdog goalkeeper. He is just so happy going. He's great to have. Like, if you ask me which player do you buy a pint, if you met all of them at a pub, Ben Wilson is probably the only player I would buy a pint, because he's someone you want to be your best friend, and he will retire at this football club. And can we please get to 2029, because I want that Ben Wilson testimonial.
He's got a really nice personality. When you watch the City Unseen, he's got, a really likable spirit. He's a joker, but he's exactly what you need, particularly when times are tough. He's exactly the sort of personality you want at your football club, and I agree with that. I think there is a place for. Do you think, in a way, you got someone like Luke Bell as well there, who obviously's picked up his medal today? But do you think there's a room for someone like a Wilson? Could that maybe stop a potential young goalkeeper coming through? Would you rather have a Ben Wilson there?
I'd much rather have Ben Wilson there. I think when it comes to the young goalkeepers, they need to be playing, not being the third choice goalkeeper. True. Send the young goalkeepers out on loan. They need to be playing. They need to be getting reps at a professional level. They're not going to do that as a number 3. I think, in my view, you reserve the number 3 if you can. Reserve the number 3 spot for either the under 21 goalkeeper or for an experienced veteran like Ben Wilson, like a Luke Ball or an Oscar Varney or whoever is under 21 goalkeeper, go out on loan, get some reps at a professional level, because you'll improve a lot more that way. I think you want Ben Wilson at the club regardless.
Yeah. Right, I'm just going to look at some more questions here. Just bear with me 1 second. I saw a question about in terms of playing wise. We'll just talk briefly about the Watford game next week. Do you think there'll be a plethora of changes in terms of the playing side, or do you think, for example, does Jake Bidwell feature? Does Jamie Allen get another run out? What do you think could happen there?
I honestly don't know. I think it's very hard to read, because I know the type of manager Lampard is. He'll want to end the season with a win, so I imagine he'll go strong. But I think the idea of Jake Bidwell and Jamie Allen starting, yeah, I'd say that's plausible. I'd be happy to see that. Both are potentially on the way out, so give them the send off that they deserve for being such fantastic servants. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a young George Shepherd be on the bench on the final day, and then at some point we bring him on for his debut. I would like to see that, but honestly, it's hard to tell. But you know what? I'd be quite happy to see Allen and Bidwell get starts on the final day, with George Shepherd making his debut off the bench at some point.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that Watford game on Wednesday's show. We're joined by the guys at Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast from the Watford side. They're very kindly going to come on and talk about Watford season, which I don't think they really want to, because it's been a pretty poor season for them. But we'll talk more about it on Wednesday. Let's go on to the loan watch.
Yeah, the penultimate loan watch of this season.
Yes.
Norman Bissett completed the second half after being brought on for Fabian Kuhns, as Kaiserslautern suffered a 2-0 home defeat to Braunschweig. Aidan Dowd completed the second half for Scunthorpe, where he was brought on for Danny Whitehall. Scunthorpe lost 1-0 to Eastleigh to end the regular season. Scunthorpe will play Southend United on this Tuesday in a playoff eliminator. Isaac Moore was absent from the Solihull squad that beat Yeovil 4-1 on the final day. But I'm going to compliment Isaac Moore, because he's had two impressive loans, 2 goals, 1 assist in 13 appearances for Solihull. And combined, he got 5 goals and 4 assists in 39 appearances in all competitions for both Solihull and Forest Green. Callum Perry completed the full game for Rochdale in probably the most dramatic game I've seen this season. Emmanuel Daizavure, he scored the opener in the 95th minute. I thought that was it. Rochdale going to win the league, but then there was a pitching major which delayed matters by several minutes. And then in the 13th minute of added time, Callum Perry suffers heartbreak as Josh Stones equalises for York City, which gives them the draw, and then they go on to win the league in the most dramatic ending I've seen in a football game. You think Aguero was the most dramatic? It don't even come close. Yeah. But Rochdale will play the winner of Scunthorpe versus Southend. Greg Sandiford completed the 490 as Bedford Town drew 1-1 versus Scarborough Athletic in the final day of the National League North season. David Mantle continues to recover from injury as Maidenhead drew 0-0 with Hornchurch. Maidenhead travelled to Dorking Wanderers on Wednesday, 29th of April, in the National League South playoffs. Hopefully, Mantle will be fit for the playoffs. Kyern completed 77 minutes for Chesham. Kyern scored Chesham's second, but the game ended 2-2. Kyern's loan spell ended with him scoring 9 goals in just 19 games from midfield. What a fantastic loan spell. It's likely he'll be leaving Coventry this summer, but with a stint like that, you're certainly going to attract interest at a good level. Josh Talawaju completed with 490 for Stratford as their season came to an end with a 0-0 draw against St Ives. Mackenzie Stretton completed for 490 for Gloucester City as they beat Walton and Hersham 1-0 on the final day of a regular season. They play their playoff midweek. I don't remember the team, so I'll have to quickly research that. Gloucester City play Poole Town this Tuesday in their playoff semi-final. They are at home. Riley Siddle completed the final 40 minutes of that same game. Raphael completed the 490 for Burton as they drew 1-1 versus Exeter. That point secured Burton their League One status. Harvey Broad completed before 90 for Daniel Redbridge as they fell to a 3-2 defeat against Slough. And finally, Kai Andrews was an unused substitute in the Edinburgh Derby as Hibs lost 2-1 to bitter rivals Hearts thanks to a late Bless Bitter winner. Although I should stress that the unused substitution came as a consequence as Hibernian were reduced to 9 men after 2 red cards, including their goalkeeper for handball. So I believe that it was the 2 red cards that led to Kai Andrews not being used today.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Cameron, for that. I think interesting that obviously it was Callum Perry. That was a great game. The shootout effectively between Rochdale and York, and let's just say that football is a very entertaining sport. It doesn't matter what the level of football is. Not the ending he would have wanted, but obviously he's got a second bite of the cherry, and hopefully he'll help Rochdale go up. So I think that's it. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Cameron?
I think that's everything. I think I typed myself out doing home watch. Yeah,
that's fine. Well, I think it's time for a beer for us, and I'm sure whoever's watching, I'm sure you're drinking a nice beer as well, or whatever beverage of choice you're drinking. So thanks tonight, Cameron, for coming on. So we've got a show on Wednesday, 7:00. Be there, be square. We're joined by Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. I'm also looking to do so if anyone's listening that is a Coventry City fan living abroad that wants to come on and talk about the season. This podcast or YouTube channel. We want to hear from you as well, because the celebrations are for every Coventry City fan, worldwide. It's not just about the people here in the UK. We want to hear from you who live abroad. You're welcome to come on, talk about the season, talk about your memories of being a Coventry fan, whatever you want to talk about. I'd love to have you on. So please join us as we talk about the next couple of weeks. I'll be looking to a show. So if you want to come on, just let me know. So thanks, Cameron, for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We really appreciate it. We've got this show, and we'll have the Watford review show probably at the following week. But I'll let you know that in due course. So play out Sky Blues. Speak to you soon. Speak to you on Wednesday. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Let's continue the good vibes. It's been it's been a brilliant day. And look forward to speaking to you soon. Good night.